What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today once again we're going to be rounding up and discussing a couple of topics regarding Destiny 2 and future content and updates. I wanted to talk about the new DLC strikes and a bunch of interesting stuff about them that's definitely going to be quite controversial, which I want to know your thoughts on them, as well as some loot changes coming in Season 2, modifiers, strike loot, a mentor award, and Iron Banner. So as usual, a big roundup video and discussion of several things worth knowing about. So let's begin talking about these strikes in this new DLC and how strikes as a whole will be after it comes out. If you don't know, they are actually bringing back the Heroic Strike playlist finally. Don't know why it wasn't there at launch, but it is coming back in this DLC. Now, I've actually played in the Strike playlist when I got to record the expansion early at Bungie, so I can actually give a bit of an insight into what it's like. Obviously, we aren't allowed to talk about what's inside the strikes in terms of bosses, enemies, what you do there, so I'm not going to be spoiling the actual content, but I can tell you about the playlist as a whole. So Heroic Strikes coming back is obviously a good thing, but I do think there are two things way more important that need to also return, and those two things are firstly modifiers like Solar Burn or Catapult, things that change up the gameplay, and also strike-specific loot. Now, so far, neither of those things were actually in the build that I played. I played the exact same thing that you saw on the stream when D showed it off, this very node right here that I went into, and there was no mention of modifiers, and then in-game there obviously weren't any either, so either it's an early version and the final game will have them, or simply there aren't any modifiers in the playlist at all that they're bringing back. Now, if that was the case and actually aren't any, then I think that would be extremely disappointing in my opinion. I think modifiers are the core essence of why people played Heroic Strikes in the first place back in Destiny 1, especially the Void Burn Catapult combination you're seeing on screen now. This is some old gameplay. This was so much fun. I used to love doing this back in Destiny 1 and basically using your grenades as primary weapons, so obviously this was a rare occurrence, but things like this, modifiers just generally changed the gameplay. Certain subclasses and weapons and loadouts became good or bad, and it made you kind of think on your feet and made the gameplay different in a sense. So if they were to just bring back the Heroic Strike playlist without modifiers, I think that would be the same thing as the normal playlist we have right now, but the only difference would be harder enemies, so there wouldn't be much incentive. So modifiers, in my opinion, are definitely a massive thing. And the thing is, Destiny 2 already has great modifiers. You've got the one that rotates your elemental burns, also Torrential Light, where your abilities charge crazy fast, so they just need to put them on that Heroic Strike playlist to give it a bit of replay value. Now, the second thing I mentioned, which also adds to the reason of doing strikes in the first place and would make people want to do them, is going to be strike-specific loot. Now, this also wasn't mentioned on stream, and I also didn't find any in the chest when I did the new strikes. It wasn't a low drop rate thing, because out of the dozens of people that played, someone would have got something. So it seems strike-specific loot isn't currently in the playlist. Again, the early version could be different in the final one, but so far there wasn't any. But the good news is that Bungie are working on adding this. It wasn't that massive list of things they're making right now for improvements. So one of the points was the better rewards and replay value for strikes, adventures, and lost sectors. So from their own words, you can tell they know strikes have very little replay value. So the question is if it makes it into this DLC or an update after, or if we have to wait even longer until the second expansion. But yeah, those are some of my thoughts on the Heroic Strike playlist and some things I can confirm after playing it, and also my thoughts on what needs to happen in terms of those two things, strike loot and also modifiers, to make it actually replayable and fun like Destiny 1 was. So next up, speaking of the strikes in this DLC, PC Gamer, who also got to play the expansion early, did mention a few things in an article. Not sure if they're supposed to say this, but they did anyway, and now the info is public. But they said that the two strikes coming in this DLC are actually reused as campaign missions. Now, I can see both sides of this. On one hand, it is definitely disappointing to see content be reused twice in two different activities, and even at a basic level, it's just confusing as a player. I think a lot of people might think they're doing the wrong activity or accidentally doing a campaign mission, like a lot of us at the event did. I thought it glitched out and gave me a campaign mission, so I was pretty confused. I think a lot of people will be as well. But at the same time, these strikes are actually really good. Like, I think they're some of the best in the game, and especially the locations, which are just incredible. Some of the boss battles, things that happen, obviously I can't spoil it, but they genuinely are amazing strikes, and I've no doubt these were built as strikes first and then turned into missions, not missions they thought to turn into strikes. Because you play them, they feel super long, they're really fleshed out, they just play perfectly as strikes, so they were definitely built as that and then turned into missions as well. Now, they aren't completely copy and pasted. There are bits of dialogue from your ghost explaining why you are doing it as a strike, and it is slightly different. And Bungie obviously intended this from the start. It wasn't a last minute, we need some strikes, so let's copy and paste the mission. It was definitely a deliberate decision from day one because of the voice lines and how it fits into the story. So it is a pretty weird one. Part of me is disappointed to see content be reused like that, and part of me thinks it's not really that big a deal because you do the campaign only once and they serve as good strikes for the end game. So those are my thoughts, but I know something some people are going to feel really strongly about and others probably won't care at all. So leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. I'm pretty interested to see what you guys think of this, whether it's a big deal or not. So next up, I wanted to talk about some of the loot changes and overhauls and new stuff coming with Season 2. I've seen quite a lot of confusion about this and been asked about it all over my comments and Twitter, mainly because Bungie haven't been very clear on the details and what's changing or what's going away. And also with the Iron Banner happening this week, the last one of Season 1, a lot of you want to know if this is your last chance to get the stuff, what's going to disappear. So I want to explain where I can what's changing about the loot. So with Season 2, we're getting some new Iron Banner weapons, you can see here, and these are filling in the missing weapon types from the first set, like an energy hand cannon, energy scout, auto rifle. These are the missing ones, and also grenade launcher. I'm assuming there's also a sniper, rocket, and everything else missing. Now, they gave the impression that these weapons will be added alongside the Season 1 weapons and simply filling in the missing gaps. Again, they weren't completely clear, but they strongly suggested the Season 1 weapons won't go away, but these are going to be added on top, basically. So this is happening across the board with Trials and Faction Rally as well. So they aren't swapping out the weapon set, just adding in the missing gaps. So these are the Trials guns, which are reskins, but with new perks and a slight redesign. So this auto rifle isn't a prosecutor, this is a kinetic version with a slightly different redesign. The Faction Rally weapons will also be filled in, like this Future War Cult kinetic auto rifle, which I've actually used as well. It's very, very good. But we already have the number, which is the energy auto. This is the kinetic one. Now, there's also a kinetic pneumonic auto, the dead orbit linear fusion rifle, which I went on a rampage with. You'll see the gameplay later. But the weapons, from what Bungie said, don't seem to be going away unless they change something in between now and then. Now, the armor we know for certain definitely are not going away, so you don't have to worry at all. The new Trials, Iron Banner, and Faction armor are simply ornaments that you put onto Season 1 gear. So these armor pieces are going to have challenges like get 10 wins with Iron Banner or go flawless in Trials, and those will unlock the ornaments through gameplay. But the armor sets are still from Season 1, so they're staying the same ones you're earning right now. Now, what's exclusive is that when Season 2 ends and we go into Season 3, the Season 2 ornaments won't be earnable anymore. So that is when you should be worrying about getting stuff. The armor seems to be staying all year round. The ornaments each season is what's exclusive. So hopefully that's explained it well enough for those asking me what's going away. And essentially, I wouldn't worry about things disappearing from Season 1 into Season 2 because they're just adding weapons to fill them out and armor ornaments. It's when we go from Season 2 into Season 3, that is when the ornaments are going to disappear, when you should worry about things going away. Also, the bright engrams are a bit different. All the stuff other than the shaders is going to be disappearing, and that's why we have the Clarion Call to earn those bright engrams as one last chance. That's definitely worth noting as well. Now, also on the topic of loot changes, something else worth knowing is the third reveal stream next week. That is where Bungie are going to go into detail about the changes of the loot system. They've hinted at some fairly big overhauls and even mentioned how Xur is going to be affected, the endgame, how you earn stuff. So that is when we get our answer on what most of us want to know. I think that endgame and economy update is going to be more important than some new missions and gear, which is cool. But with Destiny 2, the content isn't a problem. It's how you play it and why you play it. So of course, I'll have videos next week detailing all the patch notes and the changes, as well as this week as well with more early gameplay. So next up, I wanted to mention a new sort of quest or thing coming to Destiny 2 with at least one new reward, and that is a refer a friend system. So if you were around during the Taken King, you might remember or forgotten what it was. There was actually quite a lot of rewards for referring a friend to Destiny and guiding them through the basics of the game. You both got stuff out of it, and it was from a very long quest line that was also, of course, exclusive. So there were 2 emotes, a handshake and a dance, which you could sync up with a friend to, of course, look symmetrical when you did it. There was also a black and red shader, an emblem, a sparrow that looks quite cool, and 3 new legendary swords, which was quite a big deal back then when they were just introduced in the Taken King. I mean, only had a few of them, so there are 3 differently looking legendary swords. So in Destiny 2, if you head over to the emblem kiosk inside the vault, you're going to notice a new emblem just added in a recent update, kind of snuck in there, and this one is called the Mentor of Light. So some of you have noticed this, been asking me what it is, and essentially this is Destiny 2's version of Refer a Friend, which I just explained. This is the emblem for that. So as it says, you need to guide a trial player to unlock it, and it seems that Destiny 2 is going to be getting a trial from this, of course, which fits in with the Christmas theme, and also it's a way to get veteran players to help out new players because you both get rewards, and that's basically the mindset behind this, getting the kind of hardcore to help out new players and also trial players as well. So the emblem does track, and it tracks how many campaign missions and crucible matches with a trial player you've completed, and it looks to be a simplified version from Destiny 1, which was actually pretty complicated. You had to go on Bungie.net and link with a player, and it didn't always work. It's a bit messy. This looks to be a bit simplified by just doing campaign missions and the crucible, but this is definitely the emblem from that set. Now, we don't know if there's going to be also a shader and a sword and a sparrow and all the other stuff like Destiny 1, because there obviously aren't kiosks for that stuff, but there aren't any new emotes, so we'll have to see if they get added. But so far, it's just the emblem, and Bungie haven't officially announced this just yet. I'm not sure if they're supposed to put it in the game, but it's there now. We'll have to wait for the announcement to see if there's more stuff. So for those of you asking what this is and what a trial player is, then this is your explanation. Not to be confused with Trials itself, the actual separate game mode. This is related to an upcoming trial of the actual game at Destiny 2. So that's something to be aware of as well, probably coming in December like Destiny 1 was. So there you go, yet another big roundup of several things worth knowing and being aware of for the DLC and current changes and updates for Destiny 2. As always, if you did enjoy the video and want to help support the channel, then like ratings down below is always much appreciated. Of course, make sure you are staying tuned for a bunch more Destiny 2 videos. I'm still sitting on a bunch of early DLC gameplay yet to show you guys, so stay tuned for that stuff. But in the meantime, if you want to watch another video from me with some new gameplay and DLC information, then you can of course click the image on screen right now to be taken to that video, and I'll see you guys next one.